Dana, welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad to have you with us. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
Okay, my name is Danna Giroux. I now go by the title of Holistic Empowerment Coach. And my focus has now shifted to empowering women to navigate marriage breakdown with strength and resilience. And my new program is Empowered Her.
I love that. It
Yeah.
sounds amazing. So your name is, you pronounce it Dana, not Dana.
Yeah, Danna. Like I always like to
Dana.
say to everyone, Danna Banana.
Dana Banana. Okay. No, because I
Yeah.
on purpose I went and watched some of your previous podcasts and everyone was calling you Dana. So that's why I thought, okay, then I don't have to ask, it's Dana, but then it's Dana. Okay, I'm gonna stick to that.
Yeah, it's something that's happened most of my life. So for me, it's Dana. Just trying
Dana.
to, Dana Banana.
It's actually a beautiful name.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get involved in this, and why is the topic of divorce so close to your heart?
So essentially, what has happened, it's been a combination of professional insights and personal experiences. And the reason I'm focusing on marriage breakdown and divorce and helping guide women to live empowered lives before choosing divorce is because I went through my own marriage breakdown and divorce, and the impact that it has on us as women and on the family unit, on the kids. I just felt I had a greater calling to try and have women pour back into themselves before they make that big choice to leave the relationship, and to share the tools and insights that I gained through my breakdown, that I wish I'd had when I was in the thick of it. And there was a lot that I didn't realize, even though I'd done a lot of work. You're a holistic health practitioner,
Yes.
when we go on a journey of to look within and to find answers because we're feeling lost or we don't recognize ourselves in the mirror, there's so many amazing learnings and tools that most people just aren't aware of. And for me, it was sharing this with as many people as I can so that women can heal, take care of themselves, nourish themselves, and then decide, is this still the right move for me? Does
So
that
you
make
actually,
sense?
yeah, it does. So you actually start working with the women before they even get divorced or before they even make the decision to get divorced.
Yeah, that's the intention. Now, I do have women coming to me that are, they've gone through their divorce and they're trying to figure out how to navigate it. And they're trying to figure out, how do I deal with this partner? It's really challenging. And the tools that we use in my program are something that you can continue to use throughout your relationship and to be the most uplifted version of yourself for future relationships. In my experience, if we don't get to the root of our challenges or our traumas, understand, why we keep on experiencing a similar situation but with different faces, until we learn the lesson or heal the wound, we'll keep on repeating the same pattern. But the primary goal is to work with women before they choose divorce, because there's so much we can do as women if we're with our divinely aligned partner. So much we can do when we shift. Men often shift, and there's things we don't even realize we may be doing in relationship, even the words we speak and the thoughts we think, and how that can be pushing our relationship in a certain way. And just by making these little shifts and changes in our whole way of being, can dramatically shift our relationship, which I discovered now that I'm in a beautiful relationship now.
Mhm.
It's a world of a difference, but I also shifted and did the work on myself first. And I often wonder, wow, all these tools I gained, if only I had known this or knew this about myself when I was going through my marriage breakdown. Because ultimately, no one gets married to get divorced.
That's right.
And, I'd like to say, blame it all on him and he's an asshole and I was perfect.
Yeah.
But I had ways of being and coping that I learned and that worked for me at a certain point. But then, as a mature woman, desiring a loving, fulfilling relationship with my partner, these old patterns or these old wounds were sabotaging my relationship, I believe. And
So do you think that if you knew then what you know now, that you would have stayed married? Or you could
that's,
have
you know, I
saved
get
your
that
marriage?
question. I get that question a lot. I don't know that it would have necessarily saved my marriage because the other person has to be wanting and desiring for it to work. And they have to be open to you shifting and changing.
Mhm.
And a lot of partners, they expect, don't want you to change because they like the way things are. But as women, as we, for
Mhm.
some, and it's about hitting your 40s, it's the
Yeah.
hormone changes. You realize, oh my gosh, I've given so much of myself to everybody else. It's time for me to take care of me. And a partner who's not a divinely aligned partner or open may feel threatened by that.
Mhm.
So, your question, do I think things would have been different had I had these tools? Yes, but that would have been how I navigated breakdowns,
Mhm.
how I chose to communicate. The thoughts I thought regarding the relationship and the words I spoke would have been different had I had these tools back then.
Mhm.
So it might not have
Mhm.
saved the relationship, but it would have impacted the way I handled things, from everything from getting triggered to maybe to how I handled myself at the end. Because
Mhm.
at the end, I didn't recognize myself and I wasn't being the woman that was within me. I was acting out of hurt and
Mhm.
resentment and anger. And that can be a very dangerous, slippery slope.
And when you recognize that in yourself, were you able to tone it back or were you able to shift the way you approached him and the whole situation?
Yeah, yeah, because the tools I've gained that I'm sharing with these women to empower them through the breakdowns and
Mhm.
to shift how they handle the breakdowns serves is serving me in dealing with my ex-husband.
Mhm.
Because as much as we'd like to think it gets easier and it goes away after divorce, I actually
Yeah.
found it more challenging because it seems like there's not a vested interest to keep the peace.
Mhm.
Like once you're no longer with someone, I found that it could get nastier. So for me, it was, how do I manage this relationship and how do I put the energy of co-empowerment and co-respect into a relationship that has broken down, and how do I want to be? How do I desire to be in my interactions with this person?
It's fascinating. And I'm sure you're seeing that a lot more marriages are breaking down now. And actually, a lot more women are initiating divorces than ever before. Do you find
Yeah.
that in your work?
Yeah, for the most part, I'm finding it's a lot of the women deciding I've had enough
Mhm.
and I don't want to deal with him anymore. And usually the biggest question is, do you really, really believe that, this is not worth saving? What is it that you really desire? Like if everything could be perfect in this relationship, what do you desire of your partner? How would you like to see the relationship? And it's usually like, oh, I wish we had more intimacy. Or, I wish he spoke, more kindly to me.
Mhm.
Or, I feel like I'm getting suffocated. Like I don't like myself in this relationship.
Mhm.
Well, okay. So for the conversations we often have is, you're expecting all these things of him. Are you being the version of yourself that is what you're expecting of that person? So if
Mhm.
you want more love in the relationship and you desire for the relationship to be a certain way, are you yourself bringing that to the relationship? And they often think, oh, and I said, look, if you desire to have a stronger connection with your husband and your husband is desiring to spend more time with you, he's upset because he feels like you're out a lot or you're being very social, perhaps he's looking for connection. It's not to control you, he's looking for your attention. And then they think, oh, I didn't really think about it like that. Okay, so if your husband is telling you he's desiring you and desiring to spend more time with you, but you're going out and being social and not putting the love and the time into the relationship, is that serving you if you desire to stay together? when I look back and I look back at the end when really when things were going downhill and I look at my behavior, as much as I said I wanted to make it work, my behavior may not have indicated that. Yeah, it's an interesting journey, and it's interesting working with the women to help them only speak and do that which they desire into existence, and that's a big part of it.
That makes a lot of sense. Are there any instances where you would tell a woman, like, no, give up, don't even give it another try?
So ultimately, I'll never say this is what you need to do or
Mm-hmm.
this is what I believe you should do. But it's guiding women to discover the answers for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If there's abuse, then there's a big network of, I'm really glad I went to the Soulful Divorcee event because I was really able to connect to various professionals and people that are in the divorce world
Mm-hmm.
and marriage breakdown world.
Yeah.
And there's definitely some circumstances where if it's no longer safe for women to be in the household, or if it's not, if they're at risk, them and their children at risk, I would highly suggest to look into getting help, getting support. But it's essentially allowing people to make the choices for themselves. I don't think everyone should be together. So that's
Yeah.
another thing. Is there was this coach I worked with, Dr. Lee Janelle, and this was when my marriage was breaking down, and she was like, "Love should be safe." And I had to shift my whole idea around what is love. Like for me, if you your upbringing does play a factor. It impacts how we interact in relationships. And for me, I had there was an element of control.
Mm-hmm.
So control felt comforting. It
Mm-hmm.
felt safe. So when I was with a partner who was controlling and wanted to control my actions, didn't want me going here, didn't want me going there, that felt like, oh, this is love. This is what I'm familiar with. But that's not what I desired. I
Mm-hmm.
desired to have the trust in me, the love where you allow each person to thrive and grow. And I don't want to control you. I want you to be the most uplifted version of yourself and to feel free to just thrive. But those weren't the partners I was attracting. So I had an opportunity to look at myself and see where is the work that I need to do if that's what I'm attracting. And it's all about with the women and coaching, it's all about having them take 100% responsibility for their life and their choices. And we can go ahead and blame and be resentful and be angry, but there's lessons to learn and there's opportunities to grow. And once we take 100% responsibility for our life and our relationships, um, our whole life can change. And that's what I'm trying to empower women to do is take care of themselves, nurture themselves, and pour back into themselves so they can be the most uplifted version for themselves and their family, relationship, kids, everything.
That is really amazing, and I can see how lonely and how difficult it would be for a person going through divorce, especially for example, if all your friends are still married or in happy marriages, and then you're kind of on your own, and you would be like their best friend, their coach, their mentor, and everything that you would be able to guide them through this difficult period. And I think a lot of women feel really alone. I hear that a lot from people that they have mutual friends, couples, friends, and families, and everyone just kind of turns away from you because they don't want to invite you alone. Normally, you'd come with your husband, and it becomes a very, very lonely time for a lot of women.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was working on a post that's kind of speaks to that.
Yeah,
And it's like the life, like you literally, it's like starting over again. And people, you had relationship based on you being a couple. And then when you go through the breakdown, you almost don't you're going through a breakdown because you don't recognize yourself anymore.
yeah,
And then it's like, who am I? It can be very isolating. And for me, I had kids early compared to my friends, and I got married early compared to everybody else. And so it was then where do I fit in?
Mhm.
Where do I belong? I'm by myself for 5 years. I went to events by myself because I didn't want to
Wow.
just bring anybody.
Mhm.
And then it's like, oh, you're the single woman. So, we're doing coupley things. Or then it's okay, so where do I go then when I'm single? What do I do? And
And
where
women also get threatened by you because all of a sudden now you're a single, beautiful woman
yeah,
and they don't want you near their husbands,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That can also happen.
that's yeah. And even though it doesn't get spoken of,
Mhm.
then for me it's like I'm out, I'm living my life, I'm doing my thing, but then it's a very real thing. And it's interesting to navigate.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What is it you think that makes us, we're with someone for years or even decades, and we love this person. And what happens for this love to turn into such hate? How can it shift like that? Is it just that we change and our partners change, our lives change? Like, how can love turn into hate?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that because that's something I reflected on in one of the books I wrote. So I co-authored a book recently, Empowered and Heals 4, and it's true stories to inspire with strength equals resilience. And Susie from Biz Fashion magazine started this series, Empowered and Heals, and she asked me to contribute to Strength Equals Resilience because she heard my story. And it was important for me to, when writing my story and sharing, was something I could be proud of, because it's very easy to go into the anger and the resentment, and go back to that space and to try and destroy the other person. But for me, it was important to take responsibility from my role in the breakdown and to give insight to anyone who reads the book about learnings that I gained. And part of it was, how did we go to being head over heels in love with each other, didn't care if anyone else was around, building a life, building a family. Like, we were together for 15 years. And how did we go from that to we don't even want to be in the same room with each other, and we like, it's almost like you wanted to destroy each other. I think there's a few things, and I'll speak to my personal experience and what I discovered about myself. I started to not feel safe to express myself. So I was, and these are also potentially red flags if you don't feel safe to express yourself to your partner.
Yeah.
I lost self-confidence. I kind of felt like I owed him because I stayed at home with
Mhm.
the kids and working part-time instead of communicating. And this is why I talk about working through traumas and healing and old child, like, and wounds from when you're a child, because I came from a family that was non-confrontational. So I never saw fighting or arguing. So if we argued, I got very emotional and I shut down. And so I didn't know how to communicate in a healthy way.
Mhm.
So instead of addressing things, I just stopped talking about them because I was always worried about upsetting him, because if that meant he got upset, that meant he was going to leave me and to get abandoned. So there's all these, oh, bless you. There
Mhm.
was all these ways of coping and managing from when I was younger that I started to go to these old ways of being, and rather than communicate, I started to keep things inside. And then there was also the thoughts, well, if he doesn't do this, then he doesn't love me.
Mhm.
Or we've got two young
Sorry,
children.
excuse me.
It's okay. Are you okay?
It only happens on podcasts. Sorry, Dana, go ahead. Sorry.
It's
So
okay.
then basically things started bottling up inside of you, right? You were
Yeah.
hiding your feelings and it starts to build up slowly, slowly, and it kind of builds into resentment over time.
Yeah, like, when we don't feel safe to speak up in a relationship, or we grew up and we didn't really communicate with our family or our partners in a healthy way. When you are in a relationship and you've got kids and there's a shift in the dynamic. It was it was a mixture of things. And then there was also, and this is why I'm open, I am here to offer space, safe space for women to come to me,
Yeah.
and then be a voice that is not, oh, he's an asshole, or sorry about this, sorry,
No,
he's
swearing is fine on my podcast.
yeah. It's there can be, you talk to your friends or you talk to people about behaviors, and rather than give you the advice that is really supportive of building the relationship, it more almost nurtures your kind of being a victim. So I didn't see me being defensive. I didn't see me being a victim in our interactions.
Mhm,
And it took a lot of work for me to realize that I contributed to the breakdowns, and that even the thoughts I was thinking and the words I was speaking was actually making me angry and resent him more.
mhm,
And that didn't make the relationship better.
mhm,
It actually made it worse. Another thing is finding the blessing or gratitude.
mhm,
And as much as hard as things can be, it's like if you can just find the gratitude, something to be grateful for in every day, it can shift your whole being and your whole energy exponentially.
mhm.
And then finding the blessing. So if this happened, okay, what's the blessing? And I think it's really important for couples to communicate when you have children. What are the rules? Even communicating the roles of the household expectations, the roles of each partner, instead of just assuming, right? And then when you looking at each other as a partnership, like we're in a partnership together, we're working as a team to build this amazing life. So how do you see it and how do I see it? And it's a lot about communication, a lot. So I think it's not just one thing that causes the anger and the resentment to build and to explode. I believe it's kind of a combination of factors, and that's unique to each person in each relationship.
But what you were saying about, holding things inside, I think that's a big issue. And it could be for men and for women. But what I really love about your story is that you're constantly going back to taking responsibility for your own
Yeah.
actions as well, that you're not just putting the blame on him. And I think that's very common. Usually, we walk away and it was all his fault and we don't take any responsibility. And when we don't take any responsibility, we don't actually learn from the process. And we will probably go out there and make the same mistakes. And I think the work that you're doing, you're making sure that this doesn't happen with women. So next time they will make smarter choices. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I I I desire for women, for everybody to have fulfilling, beautiful relationships. If that's what they desire.
Mhm.
And it's getting out of your own way so that you can live the life you dream about. And the tools are so simple. And it can be really hard to look at ourselves and say, huh, okay, I contributed to this, and there's a space for me to do some work. And it's not about being perfect. And for me, it was like, oh, I have to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. If someone's
Mhm.
gonna love me, I have to be perfect. And then I realized, oh my gosh, that's like, how is that possible? To think that I have to be perfect to be loved.
And what kind of pressure is that?
It's
Right?
like, oh my God, everything has to be perfect. When he comes home, it has to be perfect. And if I don't do this, it's going to be good. And I don't want it. And it's not a way to live. So there is a way to live. And I can't tell someone how they should live, but I can still encourage women to get clear on what's important for them, and to remind them that they're worthy and deserving of taking care of themselves, and they deserve to be made a priority, and that love is safe, and that if you desire to have the most beautiful, co-empowering, co-respectful relationship, that it is possible. Because if I can have it, other women can have it, whether it's with your partner now or another relationship. But to have that in the next relationship, it's really important to have done the work to heal whatever came up in the last relationship, so that you can be your most uplifted version of yourself for the coming relationship, because it can be so beautiful.
And what do you think about like women, especially if the men walk away and they initiate the divorce, I think the self-confidence is gone and you're on the floor and you feel worthless. And even I think a lot of times, even when women walk away, they still have issues with self-confidence, starting over, finding a new man, getting naked in front of a new guy, all of those things, right? All the insecurities arise. What kind of steps can they take to get their self-confidence back? Because I think this has to be like one of the first things that we have to work on. Or is there something more important that you would address first?
You know, I think either if the man leaves or
Mhm,
if the woman is feeling lost in a relationship,
mhm,
it's an issue of self-confidence.
mhm.
There's a confidence issue. If one, the husband leaves, it rocks you to the core. But also with a woman, if she's not confident to talk to her partner about her basic desires, or if there's something off in the relationship, that's what we get an opportunity to work on. And I always say get back to the basics, because my I started as a personal trainer, then became a nutritionist, a holistic nutritionist, and a Tao Healing Hands practitioner. And now I'm a holistic empowerment coach. And there are so many basic things we can do to nourish our mind, body, and soul to help us regain the confidence. Simple things like um, the foods we eat, the mindset, working on the thoughts we think, and just the words we say. Like I have this. She's one of the most beautiful human beings I know, but the words that the way she speaks about herself and the words she uses to describe herself, I said to her, I said, "Well, I'm going to do anything I can to help you shift this, because you used to be the most confident woman." And she's even afraid to communicate with her husband that, she misses the way things were before. And they've been together for 7 years. And I said, "Well, what's that like?" She says, "I miss cuddling. I miss, the making out. I miss, and I said, but you're married. It's your husband." "Well, I'm shy." And so throughout the relationship, she's lost her confidence. So it's like, okay, what makes you feel good? What gives helps give you your mojo back? What makes you feel like yourself? Get your groove back. It's usually movement, nourishing your body with movement, food, healthy, nourishing food. Oh, I hear that thought coming up. Would I say this to my sister or to my best friend? No. Okay, cancel
Love
that.
that.
Implement something like uplifting.
Mhm.
So mindset is a huge thing to help build confidence. And then to work on, where are we feeling unworthy? Why do we feel like we don't deserve, or we're not worthy of caring for ourselves, or that we don't deserve the best life possible? And seek guidance. Like I talk about this in the book, seeking guidance. Don't be afraid to seek guidance. And a spiritual, whether it be a spiritual practice. For me, meditation was immensely impactful. And I had people say, "Oh, you and these self-help books, and you and all these, like, retreats." But what nourishes your soul? What really gives you joy, and what helps empowers you to cut out the noise and pour back into yourself, so you feel rejuvenated, and that you feel like what you're being lifted up by the things you do. And then also who you surround yourself with, the company you keep.
That's huge. That's very important.
Massive.
Yes. Because if you have like a very negative group of friends, they're going to bring you down and it's going to be very difficult to rise again.
And it can impact your relationship. Like
Absolutely.
I had, you talk about, them being then I was the only single one and everyone was
Hmm.
together. Well,
Yeah.
when I was married, I had a lot of single friends.
Hmm.
And when things started going not as well, or I was resentful because I was at home all the time and he was out a lot, because that happened.
Hmm.
And I felt, well, I deserve to go out too. So then you start going out with single friends who don't have the same commitments as you.
Hmm.
And that can cause friction, because where single people go and what they do is different typically than what married
Hmm.
people do. And that can cause friction. So who you surround yourself with, the company you keep, is massively important.
Yeah, I agree. And even, even as a married person, I remember many years ago, I had a girlfriend and she was so negative, always complaining about her husband. And as she was talking, you kind of want to empathize with the person. So you're, oh yeah, my husband does that too. And I was like trying to pick out bits and pieces that I could relate to because that's what we do as women. And I was like coming home angry at my husband. And I ended the friendship because it just wasn't healthy because that's just the type of person she was. And I didn't want that to impact my marriage, which was absolutely fine. But when you hear someone picking apart their marriage all the time and then you start relating to that, so I think women also need to be careful with these kinds of friends. Our
Yeah.
friends have a huge influence on our relationships, but we don't realize that.
No, no, we don't. And the the woman that you're confiding in or you're getting advice from,
Hmm.
do they even do they even know what it's like to be married or to be in a relationship? And that's why there's a bit of a movement, and I may, I don't know, people may not like what I'm gonna say, but there's a bit of a movement like fuck him, screw him, leave him, you'll get
Yeah.
50%. There's lots of fish in the sea. And I think it's a really shitty way to look at things,
Hmm.
because it's so beautiful to be able to build something with someone, just to feel like, oh, we can just toss it away. And I believe that there are things that, like love, it's been so easy, all the dating
Hmm.
apps. And I mean, I know some people have found love, but it's almost like people aren't desiring to really work to build and continue to build and work through the problems. The easier thing is just to walk away.
Yeah.
And, after my experience, and even though I'm really grateful for where I'm at now, I often wonder, had I had different energies around me, or um, different conversations,
Hmm.
would I have handled things? I would have handled things differently. Or had I been somewhere with a different friend, would my choices have been different? And that's where taking responsibility for yourself in your life in your relationship is radical responsibility, is very empowering, very empowering.
And what I can tell you after almost 30 years with my husband, and this is the advice I always give to everyone, all my friends, single or in relationships or getting into relationships, treat your spouse, your partner, as you would your best friend. Like with your best friend, you would never be ragging on them, yelling at them, telling them off for every little thing that they do, looking for the worst in them all the time, picking out their worst traits. You would never do that, as you wouldn't have any friends. So why is it that we treat our friends a certain way, but we treat the love of our lives a completely different way? And we think we can just kick them around, do whatever we want, and they have to put up with that. And I see that so much in relationship, and I think it's so sad. Like, how is that person not worthy of being treated like a best friend? And same the other way around.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the mark there, and I completely agree with you. And like again, this coach I had, Lise Janelle, she was like, best friend with passion. And I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, okay, best friend with passion. And from it was really realizing that, yeah, that's why would you speak more highly or of someone else other than the person you've committed a life to
Of
build a life
course.
with?
Of course.
And when I think back to the breakdown and I think about the way that I spoke about the relationship and the husband when things were falling apart, it was leading, because our words have power. It was leading. It was almost inevitable to end up in divorce, because the words I was speaking were not empowering. They were not uplifting. They were the complete opposite. And rather than having the energy of, what's the lesson? Find the blessing.
Yeah.
Okay, gratitude. There's so many things to be grateful for. And then learning how to cope and manage and communicate in a more effective way.
Mhm.
And then, if only I knew about the power of empowering dialogue. Oh wow, my thoughts and my words, they can actually shift my reality.
Tell us about that.
It's very cool, because I worked with a coach, gosh, a year ago or so, and I got introduced to him because this coach Michael, because I am now, single, keep on meeting
Hmm.
pretty much the same person with a different face. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Okay, I gotta look within. Really. I really, like, I've done a lot of work on myself, but I'm I can't do this anymore. So been led to this gentleman, um, Coach Michael, I like to call him, and he helped me take the stories I did some coaching previously where we take the story out of an experience. Okay, what happened? What's going on? And then what is it you desire, Dana? Because you something happens and then you go on and on and on about the experience, and it's like, okay, that happened. So what is there to be learned from it? Now, what do you desire? Well, this is what I desire. Okay, so speak that. Okay, I desire a co-empowering, co-respectful relationship.
Mhm.
Okay, say it like you mean it. So it's like affirmations, but it's decrees on steroids. It's
Mhm.
commanding with your whole being, making commands for your life and allowing the universe to deliver them. So I only have co-empowering, co-respectful relationships. I only have co-empowering, co-respectful relationships. I'm getting goosebumps right
I
now.
love it.
And but what you have to be prepared for is what you speak into existence can materialize very quickly, but also what is not aligned with that may get pulled from your life. And that was one of the most challenging things as I'm decreeing, you know, I love my big, juicy, fun love. I love, catalyzing radical health and mindset shifts in my many divinely aligned clients. Not only are the words you're saying, but then you start acting and choosing only that which is aligned with what you're commanding. And all of them working together, he's like, in 6 months, you're probably not going to recognize yourself if you take it seriously. And I was like, all right, okay, let's do this. Like I had a taste of it when I used to meditate and visualize the house I live in,
Mhm.
down to the dollar amount, the bedrooms. Once my divorce was done, the house I live in now is something I manifested and visualized for 2 years.
Wow.
Once I started working with him, I had clarity regarding my niche, regarding being of service. I started exploring a long distance relationship with an amazing man who is a friend and is blossomed into the most beautiful relationship ever. But it didn't start materializing until started embodying empowered dialogue and commanding only that which I desire into existence. And sometimes we can speak about things we don't want.
Mhm.
Well, the universe doesn't distinguish between differentiate the knots or what we do or we don't want. They just hear what we're saying and that's what they deliver to us. So it's like, from friends who desire to lose weight, for clients that desire to lose weight, when they're constantly speaking about what they see in terms of they don't like what they're seeing. Okay, but how do you see yourself? What's within you? What is what is that you desire for your life, your body? How do you like to feel? Embody that energy and command it. And so it's a very powerful experience. And now I even have a team. I was like, I love my co-empowering, co-respectful team. And suddenly the right people started coming to me to work with.
Wow. That's so powerful. I love that.
Yeah, yeah,
So this is something you practice every day now.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I even will create some decrees and I'll recite them into like my audio section on my phone, and then if I'm starting to feel off, I listen to them.
That's such a great idea. I'll have to try that. I love that.
Yeah,
Do you work with men as well?
I do. I
Mhm.
do. I worked with men more in the past. Now it's more women opening up, but
Mhm.
there are men who are struggling. There are men and some of them, they don't know what to do because they're like, I don't know what to do. My wife she's off. And so I'm working on a program, empowered him to empower men in their relationships to help
You
them.
especially need to do that with men in relationships with women going through menopause, because I think they
Well,
need like a special course to deal with us. Don't you think so?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much that goes with menopause. And I was watching some of your other episodes, and it was and the practitioner, she was explaining in the 50s and what happens when the estrogen drops, and I really, we really would love to get the conversation going when women approach that time of life. And there's something about the 40s when we just, and it has to do with the hormone fluctuations and all the demands that have been on our life. But yeah, if men, I think, were given the tools to understand what women are experiencing and why they may be going through what they're going through, they may be able to approach the situation, the relationship differently.
Absolutely. It's like when we have teenagers, we're patient with them because we understand it's the hormones. They're not trying to be mean or nasty.
Uh,
It's the hormones. And if we were given the same kind of respect as we're going through our hormonal changes again, and a lot of things are out of our control, our moods, our, lack of sleep, anxiety, a lot of things happen and it's not really our fault. So if we had partners who were more understanding of that, that would change everything. And maybe we'd have less divorces.
That's actually a great idea. You know what? I've got a girlfriend who specializes in hormone health,
Hmm.
and it would be great to come together because she's been in a long-term relationship. But
Hmm.
to be able to have a conversation, open up the conversation so that, it's not like, oh, she's, having one of her moods. It's like, well, no, this is happening because of this.
Yeah,
And it's educating
exactly.
people and giving people knowledge so that they can handle the challenges with grace and ease,
Absolutely.
and not being afraid to talk about it. But I think, no one used to talk about all this stuff before.
No,
People just
nobody. Nobody. Well, you know what? We could do like a course for the men. They can spend the first 30 years trying to figure out where our clitoris is, and then the next 20 years trying to understand our hormones, and then we'd have perfect marriages.
Well, but this is the thing. That's another, I mean, there's another whole section to talk about the sexual health, but also pleasure and like sexual compatibility.
Yeah.
And for me, I had a great sex life with my ex-husband.
Hmm.
Like for me, it was there was, I knew things were in trouble when I was not desiring that
Hmm.
anymore. There was
Yeah.
some signs, big signs for me, because I'm a
Yeah.
very, you know, but sexual compatibility and feeling safe to communicate your sexual desires, or being able to say, like, I like foreplay, or
Yeah.
I had boyfriends where I had to teach them where the clitoris was and how to satisfy a woman,
Yeah.
and it's
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah, they don't learn that.
And
They watch porn growing up and they have no idea how you relate to a real woman.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, there's, I think, a whole lot of re-education that we get to, I guess, that needs to happen, but it would be great to re-educate
yeah,
people, or to educate people on what women are experiencing and how to have loving, compassionate, co-empowering, co-respectful relationships as we age, because it's both parties deserve to have their desires and their needs met. And so how do you make that happen?
I agree completely. So then, in conclusion, please tell us, like, somebody comes to you, do you do one-on-one or do you do group sessions? Well, like, what's your process? How do you help people?
So I work in a few different capacities. One is, there's a week-long intensive, so it's a coaching session, and then there's modules that the women can do, and that helps guide them through the main seven main things that I found were the most powerful, helping me to uplift my life and lead to one of the most beautiful relationships of my life. So there's a week long, and then through that, there's something called pocket coaching. So as they do the modules, I'm on call to be able to guide them through the modules, and also be there with them to navigate breakdowns. Then there's also a 3 month like coaching, private coaching. Everything's one on one, and then
Hmm.
6 month. So everything's one on one. Typically, I work with clients at least once a week, and then we navigate breakdowns, and we have there's assignments and homework, and then we discuss it, and we, every week we see what's come up, what lessons are there to be learned, how we find the blessing. And then also with the 3 to 6 month container, there's also because nutrition, mind, body, soul
Oh, you
is
cover you
like,
cover nutrition as well. I love that's
yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
It's like, so are you eating the right foods? Are you eating foods that are nourishing for your body? Do you need guidance when it comes to physical activity? Everything's very highly
Hmm.
customizable for my one-on-one private clients.
Yeah.
But it's first working on the 7 principles to empower your life. And then how do we get you to living the life and the life, the relationship and that you desire? As we launched the program, officially launched Empowered Her,
Hmm.
I do still feel called to have a community, a group, offering where women can come together. And even if they're not doing the private coaching, there's a place for us to share and uplift each other and hopefully shift the dialogue around divorce and marriage breakdown.
Beautiful. And women are always more powerful together as we unite.
Yeah, absolutely.
And please tell us where our listeners can find you and get more information.
I can be found on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and it's Danna Giroux.
Okay, I'll make sure to link everything
Yeah.
below so they can get in contact with you. Dana, thank you so much. I love chatting with you. It was amazing. We'd love to have you back in the future anytime when you're up for it. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching or listening, and we'll see you in the next one.